Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Shields. Welcome to Next in Creator Media, my pretty new podcast here. I'm here with Gaz Alushi. He is the president of measurement and analytics at Whalar. Hey, guys, how you doing? Thanks for being here.
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm all right. Thanks for taking the time out. I have lots of questions for you. I want to set the stage about all these kind of things that are going on in the industry right now in the creator media universe. But why don't we can you kind of, for the folks that might not know Whalar or you, explain your role and what you do these days?
Yeah, I mean, Whalar is a creator marketing agency. So the fundamental role we play in the ecosystem is we connect brands with creators, depending on, which category the brand is in and the audience affinity that is built up around that creator. My role is the basically head nerd. It's my job to help legitimize what we do so I can help brands understand this is what creators actually did for your brand. And I've been there for about 3 years now. Prior to that, stints at Snap, stints at Facebook, and a bunch of classic market research firms. So I'm a legitimate professional nerd.
Okay. I'm going to get into some of your nerditude in a little bit.
Great.
But, and this question is kind of related to where I'm going, but how would you, this is probably gets old for you guys, but how would you describe the state of affairs? There's so much excitement around the creator economy broadly, and brands are doing more, but do you feel like, are we at the right level yet? If there, are brands doing, generally, is there enough money going to this? Or is it reflective of where the audience and influence is yet? Like, where does that stand? I know it's going to be very different brand by brand, category by category.
I mean, of course, it's going to be different brand by brand, and some categories over-index. I think it's safe to say the beauty and personal care category was the first in the space, and those brands were very, very quick to partner with creators. But what we're seeing is, a lot of brands are under-indexing on what they're doing with creators, and the belief is they just don't have the necessary proof points to go back and say, this is where creators fall within the media mix. So we had done a study with Nielsen, a media mix study, that showed creators drove a 2.4x ROI. But when we dug a little bit deeper, it showed that creators made up less than 1% of the media spend for the personal care campaigns that we analyzed, but had 3 times that size impact.
So even in that category,
they're punching above their weight. They're really doing a lot of heavy lifting for the brands in a very meaningful way. We're at this interesting inflection point where brands, they don't need to be sold that they should be doing it.
They know it's a thing. They know it's big. They get that.
They know it's
finally
big. They know it's there. They're kind of waiting for like the how. And the good news is it's really easy to get into it. Bad news is it's going to vary for every brand. Every brand has a different story. And I like saying categories are need-based, brands are want-based. But the beauty is nobody knows what people want more than creators.
So I have a bunch of questions. I actually moderated a panel this week at Advertising Week about this. It was an attempt to come to a generalization of how we should measure creators and what to do with them, which to me felt almost impossible, but I understand the desire of the industry and brands to want that. But so I guess I'm asking, can you, because the industry loves like standard ways of measuring, standard ways of buying. That's how things like scale, but doesn't seem to lend itself to that, this being a lot of different things. But can we and should we come up with like a way of measuring the, either the media value of creators or the impact of them, or is that going to be impossible because it's so unique?
It's actually possible to do today. Creators are media, right? We were able to include them in that media mix model because they are media. They are showing up on platforms that are already being measured the way other media channels are. They are on Instagram. They are on TikTok. They are on YouTube, Snapchat, insert additional platforms here. Every surface they touch is a surface that's already being monetized by brands as media platforms. And so the beauty is include those impressions, include those reach all into the same media mix model you're doing. But it doesn't just have to be the lower end of the funnel. Top of the funnel, you can do brand lift studies. We actually work with a partner, Element Human. We work with Kantar. We actually measure brand awareness. brand resonance? Did they pick up on the messaging of the key benefits of the brand? Consideration, intent. There is literally no reason not to measure it the same way. My belief is a big part of the confusion that came to play is a lot of people have rushed into the vacuum that has been the creator economy and came up with arbitrary metrics. My personal favorite is
right. We got to do something before we figure out why or what to count. Or
exactly. My personal favorite is EMV, earned media value. It's a metric that was put out there as like the definitive, this is success for creator. It's a great measure of breakthrough.
Sounds great. You didn't pay for it. It's earned. It was magic, right? Yeah, like,
can you please say that again for the people in the back? Like, there is no CFO that's looking at earned media value say, well, let's add that to our balance sheet. That's
right.
not happening.
Dial that up.
Exactly. And so it always comes back down to, if you want it to be measurable, measure it the same way you're measuring everything else.
Okay. So I may be belaboring the point, and I'm asking this in a different way, but so I wonder, because that makes sense to me. There are certain, especially like Google talks about this, and they are biased because they have YouTube, but there's like, a new generation of the new media moguls, right? The new creators who create consistently, have, predictable audiences. Everyone knows Mr. Beast, but the Dude Perfects and all these other big names who are, so I guess I wonder if I think you're saying like almost treat them like you would TV shows or channels where you can plug them into however you're calculating your reach and frequency or the stuff you care about. And just like, that's a media buy. But then of course there's trying to measure, because others will say, well, no, creators are more like a celebrity endorsement where you have to measure like the Q score of that person and the halo effect, or in other cases, they're trying to sell stuff. So I guess I'm asking a very hard, wide ranging question.
You're asking actually a great question.
What am I saying?
So fundamentally, you're saying, then what is the differentiation if they are simply another button to press for marketers? What's happening is creators have become the canary in the coal mine. They know these platforms better than anyone else does now. The biggest mistake we see brands make is they try staying ahead of every change the algorithm's going to make. They try staying ahead of every new offering that's going to come up on Instagram or on Snapchat. Guess who already knows? The creators. These are the people, they live their lives on these platforms. And what you have is a creator cannot be a creator without being creative. And so you have these mini creative directors who will literally guide your brand and say, hey, if you want to land that message, we should do 2 carousels and 3 stories and 2 reels, or we should do, 3 TikToks and then a TikTok shop, live active. These are the experts into what the communities are actually craving. So the creative ideation, that changes significantly. The execution changes as well, but at the core, the measurement stays the same. And that remains the constant through all the media touch points. So that way, reach is reach, resonance is resonance, reaction is reaction.
So what are those, given that makes sense to me, but what have some of the mistakes you've seen where the wrong team at the agency or brand is evaluating these programs and through their lens and not thinking about as media or thinking about as creative or getting in each other's way? Like, what kind of stuff do you see?
I mean, I see oftentimes the biggest mistake is when brands throttle the creator's creativity, because that plays out in the measurement.
Yeah.
Right. It's no, you need to have this color background and you need to use this color palette and you need to use this font and you need to make sure that you have this image. Well, suddenly it's an ad. It's no longer creative content.
And you've negated what you were seeking to gain from working with this person.
And spoiler alert, the results show the same thing.
Yeah. It's not good. People know it. They don't like it.
Ad awareness is high. Brand favorability, consideration, all low. And so that's the biggest mistake brands make. When it comes to the measurement side of it, it's always that they didn't plan for creators early enough. So good measurement requires good planning. You can't just bolt something on and then assume you're going to have a control group to actually measure what's happening. You can't bolt something on and say, oops, I forgot to tag these assets. How can we figure out what my click-through was to the site and what my attribution was? And so the biggest mistake is not planning around the measurement as well, because if you're planning it, it's measurable. And the thing is just getting confused by false proxies. So I mentioned EMV before. And like I said, it actually is a great metric for breakthrough. But the Met Gala this year, the general consensus is it had $250 million in EMV. And everyone's like high-fiving. This was great.
Wow, look at that. Right, yeah.
Hashtag celebrity block list. Hashtag eat the rich. Hashtag let them eat cake. Like so many brands and so many creators lost millions of followers because of their
you earned that that attention, but that wasn't what you wanted.
Exactly. And so had there been any resonance studies done, like how do you feel about this brand after seeing this content?
Right.
You probably wouldn't be touting that EMV the same way.
Right. Yeah, you might not have even done been part of the campaign at all.
Exactly.
Okay, getting more nerdy or less, I'm not sure. Another thing that came up during this discussion I was having the other day, there was someone from Nielsen on the panel kind of talking openly. Would you like to see, because I always wonder about this, you want to have more dollars going towards this economy, like we talked about, or these creators. Would it help you if if the researchers were able to lump video all together? In other words, we look at these charts where Netflix is gaining X percentage of streaming and YouTube's coming on strong, but then like TikTok is something else. And would you want to put all social video and TV together in one bucket and measure them the same way? Or is that, you're shaking your head? Why is that not a good idea?
So take a few steps back to the just fundamental nature of how humans behave. Are you on Instagram?
Yes.
Are you on Twitter or X?
Yes.
Imagine you
wish I wasn't.
I mean, I think a lot of people are feeling that. Yeah. But let's say you opened up your Instagram and it was your Twitter feed instead.
Right.
You would have a stroke. You'd be like, this is not what I'm looking for. App to view. Let's say you opened up YouTube and it was giving you a TikTok feed. You are in a different frame of mind when you're opening up each app. There's a reason why when different platforms borrow features from a competitive platform, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they have the same foothold, sometimes they don't. Because consumers at the end of the day are in a different frame of mind. And we see that GWI, they're a huge insights company based out of London. They just showed that the things people are looking for, particularly Gen Z and millennials, vary when they go out of different platforms. If you're feeling in a mode to like discover and see what's going on, you're probably going to open up Pinterest. If you're in a mode to actually say like, hey, like I'm job hunting or I want to see what's happening with conference, you're opening up LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. So you can't lump in LinkedIn video with TV. You can't lump in a TikTok with a Netflix ad placement because they have fundamentally different values. Right.
Okay. On that note, so that's interesting because there's, again, depending on who you talk to, there's a school of thought that, this is usually from traditional, I think, brands and buyers. Well, the kind of attention that you have when you're watching a real show, is so different than a in-feed short form that the value, they should be valued differently, and the advertising receptivity is different. Probably hard to generalize, but do you hear that? Is there research to counter that or back that theory up? What do you think about that?
There is a whole body of research that exists on this that no one will agree on. Because to your point, I mean, it's
like who's going to win Pennsylvania in the election? I don't know.
Correct. It's going to come down to one last mail-in ballot, and we're going to see what happens. And what's really wild about this is, a firm out in Australia just came out with research that showed actually attention doesn't have a bearing on brand affinity or anything like that. And it's like, okay, guess that kind of makes sense. Then you have neuro research that shows it takes you a millisecond to become aware of something. Then you see that you have to show a brand within 3 seconds on Instagram for you to have high brand recall, but it's 8 seconds on TikTok. Why? People are in different frame of minds when they're on the platforms. Is it that people are paying more attention or people are coming onto TikTok with a different frame of mind.
Yeah.
And my thoughts kind of blurred there because I was like, every time I'm on TikTok, everyone's an investigative journalist. Everyone's like, I'm going to find out what restaurant that was. I'm going to find out what store that was. And suddenly it's like, it was this store on this street in this city.
That's funny.
Like, and TikTok, it's much more voyeuristic. So when you think about it from that angle, going back to your original question, attention matters to a degree. Like, don't get me wrong, you need to pay attention.
Yeah.
But we're also living in an increasingly fragmented world. One of my favorite new stats is if you look at all the content produced throughout human history, 90% of it's been produced in the last 2 years.
That's crazy, but that makes sense. Yeah, there's just the amount we've churned out because of the depth and breadth of the creator universe, right? And
exactly. And not just the creator universe. People are now posting their responses as videos to the creators.
Right.
You go with the comments, there's video responses.
Yep.
And so there's still 24 hours in a day. So the conversation isn't so much about attention and time spent. It's about efficiency. Where are you getting the greatest efficiency in communicating that message in a way that gives the greatest utility to the end user?
Okay. A little bit of a change, left turn. This is not fair because it's probably so hard to do, but are there content genres, categories, creators that are people brands may not know about? They know the big names that are worth paying attention to right now. I'm sure this changes like by month, but anything really interesting from your end that you want to point out?
So I'll use a creator as an example, as an entire genre that has exploded because of the current cost of living crisis that is being experienced around the world. It's not just US, it's not just EMEA. And it's Dollar Tree meals on TikTok. It's this woman that will literally just show how to make meals from chain restaurants, meals from nice restaurants, meals from fast food restaurants, all using Dollar Tree ingredients. And it's not just that. She uses her platform to then educate about food deserts. I genuinely had no idea what a food desert was until she explained what it was. And she was like, there are places where companies won't build stores because
you can't get good produce. It's not a good supermarket. Like, so everyone, your options are a lot of crap often.
And so this is part of operating in the culture as opposed to operating in the category, because creators are the first to fill that void.
Yeah.
Where people are really craving information. And so they're like, I know this, so let me post a video, see what happens. She now has millions of followers and is getting tons of brand deals.
That's fascinating.
And people love her content because it's not just relatable. They can do it. They're like, oh, I just planned my meals for the week thanks to her. And so like financial literacy is something that's becoming really big right now. Self-improvement. And when I say self-improvement, I don't mean self-improvement on yourself. I mean, doing self-home improvement. So things that you can do around the home, things that you can do, career guidance, all of these are categories that have taken off. But what you see is a lot of interchanging with communities. So just because you follow makeup doesn't mean that you don't follow other things as well.
Right.
And one of my favorite examples of this is a woman who is in LA, and she just started doing a series on mukbangs of donut shops. She's like, I'm going to review every donut shop in California. People are loving it. Guess what she started doing? Makeup tutorials, because every time she does it, she has this bright red lipstick on, and people are like, your lips?
What is that? How did you do that? Right.
Taste testing donuts to now doing makeup tutorials.
That's
like
that says it all about the versatility of this
exactly
group of people, and how much the audience interaction and how it can drive and dictate where the content goes, which is so unlike other media.
Exactly.
Okay, another left turn, sort of, but it's in your nerd lane. Hopefully, is the obviously with from a broad level, there's more and more interest in retail media and everything being shoppable and everything being trackable for an advertiser who wants to figure out their ROI on everything. So you're seeing a lot more pressure on all media. You're seeing TikTok push shopping in a big way, but everybody else is kind of getting involved. I guess I don't know if you can sum this up, but how is this medium and creators in particular doing in terms of attribution can they even be held to the same kind of standards as like, advertising on Amazon or something like that? What does that look like for you?
So with creators, what we've seen is traditionally they fall within this affiliate category where it's like, click my link, use my promo code, and this is the way for brands to help track. But we also know consumers, unless there's a discount attached to the code, they're not going to care.
Right.
And they're not going to use the link or the code. They're going to go do their own thing. So while there's some attribution that's currently happening, this goes back to my original point of like, if you plan ahead of time, you can actually tag the content from the creator, put some paid media behind it, and suddenly you're going to be able to measure it the same way in whatever attribution model you have, in whatever mobile measurement partner you're utilizing. Yep. It's going to be able to happen in the same way. And when we see retail media partners, they've actually been quite smart in beginning partnerships with creators, kind of as brand ambassadors of how they shop the stores, of how they use the apps, and how they use the online presence to fill their baskets. One of the challenges that I think all of these shopping platforms are facing goes back to that cost of living crisis where all the data, all the insights, everything show no one is shopping in a single place.
Yeah.
Everyone is much more cost driven now. Everyone is much more price sensitive. So, that's great. Can I get it cheaper on Amazon? Can I get it cheaper on Temu? Like, where can I go to shop? Oh, maybe I'll come back now and get it.
Right. So that spontaneous purchase thing is harder to capture when people are really price conscious and shopping up and down the ladder.
Exactly.
Do you think, I mean, you have TikTok obviously in a big way trying to make shopping and then live shopping a bigger thing in the US. YouTube, I think, wants to play in that space. I don't know if they're going to go out for it as aggressively as TikTok, where you fulfill your purchases in the same ecosystem. How do you see that if there's a battle shaping up there?
I think it's going to be the most successful if you follow the path of the consumer on the platform, right? So what consumers want is if they're seeing a creator wear something, they're seeing a creator drink something, seeing a creator, apply something.
Right.
Where can I buy that? Where can I buy that right now? Allow those organic moments to be shoppable as opposed to, hey, we're doing a video where you're going to go shop right now and you're going to go shop exclusively at this store. And if you make it as part of the consumer journey, you'll build that organic traction over time. And where I think YouTube is being quite smart, because I mean, they have the entire Google search engine at their back, which is a pretty powerful tool to go shopping. So I think they actually have much more runway than any of the other platforms do to facilitate that in a much more organic and natural way.
Yeah, that makes sense. Assuming that the feds don't make them sell YouTube or something like that. That has not been on the table thus far.
It's not on my big board yet, but God knows what'll happen.
A couple more questions from me. This is a little bit random, but it's an obvious one. Are you seeing, the fate of TikTok is uncertain. It's been like that for a while. I don't know what's going to happen. Are brands or creators acting as if like they have to be worried and change plans, or is everybody kind of just proceeding as if it's the way it's going to be? It's going to be this way for a while.
I mean, it's the top question from brands. Obviously, they're asking that all the time. Creators, it's a bit different because creators are so embracing of change. And even current state, TikTok is not banned. They're still looking at what does tomorrow hold? What platform should I be on? What does my community want? And what you're already seeing is that the content creators produce varies by platform. To the point I made before, you're going to different platforms for different things.
And most are not all in on one platform.
Exactly. So I think they're looking at it more from a standpoint of like, we're watching this, but we're still thinking about like, what's next? Are there different platforms? Even with TikTok already being here, none of them are rushing to abandon it. They're still seeing tremendous value. They love the platform and the platform is so creator friendly. But this is, I will say the panic is not the same. For creators
that makes sense.
as it is for brands.
That makes a lot of sense. Last thing is, if you were running the world, like, what would be, how should brands and agencies, like, what would be the ideal way to structure what you do? Like, in other words, should all the budgets eventually come together? We kill the silos. We don't have the social agency and then TV group, or does it make, and and all your research comes together one place, or is that never going to make sense and you need specialists? And good for you guys. Like, how would you change the world if you could?
I'm going to give such a mealy-mouthed answer. It's really right in the center, right? Like, you need the specialists who understand the nuance of each platform. But honestly, the industry really needs to go back to pushing for a democratized form of evaluating the most efficient platform.
Yeah.
Every brand is going to have the most efficient, right? Some brands still come out and say, Facebook's the most efficient for me. Others say, actually, Facebook's not efficient. Instagram's more efficient. Yeah. I know they're both Meta.
Yes.
But like, it's going to vary so wildly based on your demographic, based on your core consumer, based on market factors. And so what I think is the ideal is going back to measure everything the same, because that brings that unified form of measurement where then you can then tease out the nuance to say,
right,
okay,
we've got a base level. We're going to look at everything and then
exactly
pick off what we need.
And I think the cleanest way to do it is to honestly begin shifting the narrative to incrementality. Identifying the platforms that give you incremental audiences. And
that speaks to brands. Like, I don't want to feel like I'm missing my customers. That matters.
Exactly.
Gaz, we could talk forever about this stuff. Awesome conversation. Thank you for taking the time out. Let's chat again soon.
Thank you so much for having me.